Can we start with the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for coming. We're going to have our open forum. I just wanted to repeat some of the comments I made a month ago in case somebody didn't hear those, is that the open forum, we want to follow our procedures and policies that we have in place, and that's to make the open forum as equitable as possible. And so that's a limit to 2 minutes. And so I will give you a sign or let you know in when you have about 15, 20 seconds to go. And I just simply ask that you'd have to stop speaking at that time. And the whole thing is 10 minutes. So we want to stick to those procedures. I've also received some criticism, which I think is fair, that I will ask some people questions and others I won't. So I'm not going to ask any questions to anybody. I think that's the only way to keep that equitable as well. So we want to hear from you, but we have to do it in a manner that's fair to everybody. So with that, is there anybody that'd like to address the board? Second ask, anybody? If not, we'll move on. We're going to move on to celebrating our successes, and I'm going to start with one. This is Quinn's last board meeting, our student member. We certainly enjoyed that you've been part of the board, and I really appreciate that when we asked you a question, you had an opinion, and you weren't afraid to tell us. So why don't you tell us all what you're doing next year? Oh, here, I'll turn mine off, sorry.
Oh, there we go. So my name is Quinn Peterson. For those of you who don't know, I'm a senior at Elberly High School. Next fall, I'm going to University of Minnesota on my shirt, and I am studying biology and hoping to become a dermatologist. So it's been a really fun time on the board, I think this last year and this year. So thanks everyone for welcoming me, and yeah. Any questions? I don't know, I'm just talking to you guys.
We have a certificate for you.
Thanks, good.
All right, thanks, Quinn. 4.1, presentation of certificates of recognition. Kathy.
Okay. Is that okay? So, about the early 1990s, the district created a committee, and that's not to make them feel old, called the District Curriculum Committee, and that committee was to provide advice to the school board on district curriculum issues. And I was very fortunate at that time to be part of that initial group. And then I went away and did other things and have been back and forth to the District Curriculum Committee several times. But these two gentlemen from our community have really been, I will say, year-long, multi-year-long members of that committee. And I think Greg was one of the original members of the committees, and Vern's son, Lee, was one of our first student representatives to the committee. And then when Lee left, Vern joined the committee. So with me tonight is Greg Gosen. He is has had one student, one son, go through Albert Lee area schools and graduated and moved on. He was just telling me about he's up north. And then we have Vern Terrace, who has had 2 children attend the Albert Lee area schools and have graduated and moved on. And these 2 gentlemen have really spent lots and lots and lots of time at our committee meetings. As I was telling Ashley, if we have 2 members, they're the 2. If we have 20 members, they're among the 20. So I just want to recognize this probably between the 2 of them over 40-year commitment to our community, which is really just pretty outstanding. So Vern Terrace and Greg Gosen. Thank you.
Okay, and then for the Blue Zones, we have Ellen and her team. Ellen?
Is Mike still? No. Mike's still on? Thank you. Thank you for inviting us here tonight. Before I start, I would like to invite some of the members of our leadership team so that you can see, I mean, this is not, maybe half the members or whatever, to be with you tonight because this is just such a big celebration for the school district. So if you're a member of the leadership team, Chris, you come up here too, Gary. Okay. These are members of the Blue Zones Project leadership team. And they work very hard for the community. We're excited to be here tonight. I think this is the biggest celebration that we've ever had. Actually, not so. Unless you were at Southwest Day of Awesomeness. That was, and Southwest kicked off the Blue Zones project in the school sector. And their celebration was exactly what it says. It was awesome. And they're very proud of their achievement. And that has gone on. A year ago, I came to you and presented 5 certificates, Southwest and your 4 elementary schools. And because in 2014, you passed a resolution in support of the Blue Zones Project. And your request was that you would like to see all of your schools be Blue Zones designated. And tonight, that wish is going to come true. But your schools have taken it to an even much higher bar than that. As you can see, we had 1 school left, and then look at all these certificates. Your schools not only are designated Blue Zones schools, your schools are designated as Blue Zones work sites. And I don't think, as far as I know, there is no other demonstration site in the Blue Zones family, and it is a nationwide movement where schools have ever achieved this high a bar. You have set the top bar, 100% participation in both schools and work sites. So before we present certificates, a couple of the leadership team members, not all of them, I assure you, have some things to say. Alice
Okay.
England.
Hi, I'm Alice England with the Statewide Health Improvement Program with Freeborn County Public Health. I had a huge PowerPoint put together, and Ellen said, no. Just take that 1 page and bring that. So I really want to thank the Albert Lee Schools for their partnership with SHIP. And our focus is on healthy eating in schools and physical activity in schools. And Albert Lee Schools stepped up to the plate, partnered with me, met with me. All the schools created school health committees. All the schools installed water bottle filling stations. Some other activities, at Southwest Middle School, they're piloting some standing desks for students, and they're initiating the Smarter Lunchroom Initiative. Sibley did indoor recess kits, along with Halverson and Lakeview, and Hawthorne. So we all have, kids now have something to do on those rainy, cold days inside, some activities to get them moving. School gardens, Sibley Skippers, after-school jump rope club, Hawthorne starting a walking, running club after school, active outdoor recess, Spark evidence-based PE curriculum at Sibley. So tons of really cool evidence-based programs for kids. So thank you so much for your partnership.
Randy Kerr for work sites.
Hi, I'm Randy Kerr, Executive Director of the Albert Lee Freeborn County Chamber of Commerce, and co-chair, along with Stephanie Haight back here, come on up here, Stephanie, of our Worksite Wellness Committee. And since early 2010, when we formed that committee, the district has had a member of staff always partnering with us on that committee. And by designating all your work sites tonight, you join with others around that table in providing healthy and easy choices for approximately 4,500 employees in Albert Lee. We firmly believe that by engaging your employees, you will have an even greater impact on your students and on their families, as well as your employees' families. As I give community tours to prospective employees of various local businesses, They never fail to mention the sense of collaboration they pick up from Albert Lee and our commitment to wellness community-wide. For me, high on my list of collaborators is District 241, and the way you have embraced the principles of the Blue Zones Project has been extraordinary. We truly appreciate it. And through your efforts, all of our efforts, and we're all volunteers except for Ellen and Alice. They're paid by the state or by someone. But through your efforts, all of our efforts will bear fruit long into the future. So thank you very much for what you've done for us.
And last, Chad Adams on behalf of really the community initiative.
Yes, Chad Adams, Senior Manager and also co-chair of the Blue Zones Leadership Team. Again, just want to congratulate the schools on the designation for both these schools and the work sites, and I think you should really be proud as elected officials and staff on your leadership and ownership of each of the schools to become designated schools. Schools have the unique opportunity to not only impact our children, but also inform the parents and staff as leaders in the community on the importance of good health and well-being. I appreciate that as a community leader, but more importantly, as a parent of 3 children in the district. Through this designation, the school and community have once again demonstrated the power of successful collaboration to make positive change for present and future generations. And again, as co-chair of the Blue Zones Leadership Team, I look forward to working with the district leadership on sustaining our systems, programs, and policies that benefit the entire community and truly serve as a leader throughout the state of Minnesota and throughout the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. So that's part of our leadership team. I wish everyone could have been here tonight. Now for the certificates. And when I call you, if you could stand in front of our leadership team, and that's where the picture that we'll get. Because we want that picture. And the first one is Brookside Education Center. This is a worksite designation. And the reason this is the first one is that this group waited for 1 year. Last year when I was here, this certificate existed. But they said, no, we want to wait for the others. We know there are going to be other work sites. We're going to wait and we're going to celebrate together. So Brookside Education Center, Superintendent Fugg, could you hold this one? I know you were. If I gave him a choice, he would let someone else do it. So you hold that one, okay? The next designation is we started working out with high school this year, as promised. And by January, the high school had achieved their school designation. So Mark, I know you're back there somewhere. If you can come and hold that one. And then at about the same time, like within a week, the high school also achieved their worksite designation. So they were totally on it as soon as school started. And I thank you so much for that, Mark. Chris Chalmers, if you can come and hold that one. Chris is on our leadership team, and bless your heart, Chris. I just drive him something fierce, you know. It's like, Chris, you know, he's like, yes, Ellen, what? This is the first time he's done all this work. The first time he's ever held a certificate. And now we have our elementary schools. Sibley, I'm sorry, I know it is Diane. Is Diane? Wrong posted on there. Sibley. Yes, Sibley is Sibley. Diane is something else. She is just like always there. And we actually celebrated at Sibley. And so I had to go by today and rip her certificate off the wall and bring it so that Diane would be not standing with nothing. So here you go, Diane. All right. Lakeview Elementary, Nick Sofio. And here you go, Nick. And Halverson Elementary School, Joanna Thomas. Hawthorne Elementary School is Karen Zawalski. And Southwest Middle School, Steve was not able to join us today. John Double is going to do this for Southwest, and John and I have done a lot of work together. Great tiger trot he did. All right. Uh-huh. There you go. And Dr. Shoddy. The scissors is for you, yes. All right. So let's stick these in here. We don't want this in the picture. And how about, can you come over here, Ron? We'll hold this. I hope there's enough here. Okay. All the way over here, Cam? You hold it on the other end. Okay, you get in there. Hold it really tight. Warning, warning. The ribbon does not cut easily. And for their first time, I'm gonna be in the picture, I'm gonna be back here. That's not good. Okay. What do you do for a profession?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Maybe that's not, is that, okay. Thanks to all of you very much. All right, so let's see, item 5, approval of today's agenda. Before I do that, Ashley, just for the roll call, could you note that Bill's absent? We are anticipating that he'll arrive at 5:30 though, so we'll mark him present when he arrives. So I need a motion to approve today's agenda. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 6, consent items. I need a motion to approve the consent items as listed. Thanks, Linda. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dave. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Item 7, reports. Dr. Funk.
Little different report tonight from what I normally give, but this is hot off the presses, and I thought it's important for the district to hear this. On Friday, I believe, the Obama administration came out with transgender guidance from the Federal Department of Education, which will impact every public school in America. And so I just wanted to give the board a quick heads up here, and then do you have copies of the? Yeah, they have it. Okay, you should have copies of the guidance in front of you. And
is
if
there
people,
some on the desk back there too? So if somebody in the audience wants them, they're back there too. Thanks.
and we're not going to get too much into the guidance tonight, but what I want to tell you is the impact if we choose not to follow the guidance. Districts are being compelled to comply with the guidance due to Title IX non-discrimination rules or risk the elimination of federal funding. A quick initial analysis this morning on what our impact would be in Albert Lea if we chose not to follow the guidance provided by the Department of Education. Looks like about a reduction of $2.7 million in federal funding. So that's money we receive in the general budget, and for food service that would just go away since we chose not to follow the federal rules. So and again, we just had a brief amount of time to look at this, but what I'm recommending that we do is have Kathy really lead a committee over the summer to see what this policy looks like, what the impact is on our school district, get a lot of good community input on this, get district officials input on this, analyze the guidance, and come up with a framework for our district. I'm sure there's going to be something forthcoming from the Minnesota School Board Association on policy on this. The State High School League has addressed this issue, but their approach to it was a couple years ago, is not nearly as liberal as the federal interpretation here. So Kathy, I don't know if you want to just touch base on some thoughts you had as far as moving forward here.
Sure. So as Dr. Funk said, we received this Friday and had a chance to preview it over the weekend and take a look at some other documentation that I'm not really familiar with, but we're going to be. And so kind of brainstormed this morning a pathway forward. So to form an advisory committee to the school board on transgender student civil rights. The first is to provide the letter of guidance from the U.S. Department of Education. And as I indicated, there's a pile on the table over there for the community members, and then a copy for each of you to go through. I learned a lot just reading through the guidance. I think there's some really good information in there. But we know that for us to provide the most comfortable situation for students and staff and our community members, we need to have a substantial amount of involvement. So I've also left a stack of my cards on the table back there if there are community members who would like to be involved in this group. Please contact me. We are looking to begin on June 1st in the boardroom here as our initial meeting. We'll be looking for, of course, building administration from all three levels, our AD and myself. We're looking for a school board member. We'll be looking for a teacher union rep along with coaches and other additional teachers up to around 5. We're looking for a paraeducator rep. We know that this ruling will impact our record keeping, and so we are asking for an administrative support staff representation. And then also looking for community representation to include parents of transgender youth and young adults, as well as community members of interest, and looking to about 12 members. We certainly would have the meetings open. We also discussed possibly recording the meetings. And so our first step is to review this documentation from the department. It's actually a federal guidance called the Dear Colleague Letter on Transgender Students, Notice of Language Assistance. So this is just kind of where we're at. What would the committee do? Take a look at the privacy of education records. That would involve school district staff, and then elements for the advisory committee to consider. How do we provide a safe and non-discriminatory environment for our students and staff? So there certainly may be facilities issues, training issues, ongoing support for our students. We know that Anoka Hennepin Schools has lots of guidance for other school districts around the state. We have the high school league guidance. And then come forward with what this looks like, hopefully by August, to the school board. We know that's fairly ambitious, but we also know that the guidance is really fairly well written. As in my role, I'm certainly not an expert at that. I know we have some parents in the community who have much more expertise on this than and I hope that some of those parents will agree to come forward and help us. I've had a couple of parents over the year ask me if they could be involved with something, if the district had groups or information on the LGBT community, and so I plan on reaching out to those parents as well. So that's kind of where we're at.
The other thing I would like to say is, in the education connections that I have, it is likely that there's going to be a lawsuit. It's extremely likely there's going to be a lawsuit over this directive or guidance that we're receiving from the federal government, from school districts, which may slow down the compelling implementation process that the federal government is speaking of at this point in time. I can almost guarantee there's going to be a district that says you can't do this. But what you have from hearing from Kathy is our district leaning way forward. Okay, if this doesn't happen, we want the board to have some ideas when school starts back in August on impact on our district and things that we can do. So do I think there's going to be a lawsuit? Yes, I do. Is there going to be a stay on the implementation of this guidance? Don't know for sure. The administrative guidance at this point is, okay, if we have to implement as they are stating here, what is the impact going to be on our community? And let's get as much community input on this as we can.
Could I suggest maybe we call it a task force? 'Cause I think.
Absolutely.
I think we have to form a committee and then unform a committee, and
Sure.
committee is kind of like ongoing, so it
Yep.
might be easier.
Or an
And-
ad hoc,
And then
but yes.
if there is an age-appropriate transgender student or students that the group feels might be helpful to be on the group, I think that would be good too. And I don't know what that age is, but. Well, thanks for leading that. Sure. Be interested to hear what you have to say. Other things, Mike? Okay. And Ashley, you can note that bills arrived, if you didn't see that, thank you. No, thanks. We are on 7.2, student school board members' reports. Gwen?
I don't think there's too much going on at the school right now. I know that there is finals coming up and school is wrapping up. So seniors have 9 days of school left, I know. And I believe the other students have 13. So finals are in full force. Track has Big 9 this week or next, I believe. Baseball has sections coming up. I'm not sure about softball, but pretty much everything's winding down. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thanks. 7.3, school board members report. Dave?
Last week we had a Chamber of Business Education Committee meeting, which is good. Several members of the community, business community. That's it.
Okay, Jill?
I'll wait for the camera. Okay, thanks. First, I want to thank Quinn for your investment to us on the board. It's been a joy to have you here, and I know it's not always been fun. Some discussions have been tense, but I hope that I'm sure that you've gained a lot of experience just by observing us, and a lot of times we learn things by seeing people do things the right way, and a lot of things we learn by seeing things done the wrong way. So I appreciate your time here with us. Committees that I've been a part of since the last meeting have been the ATOD, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Other Drug session, and there is another community event coming up, which is really exciting, and Lana's here. She could give you more information too, but it will be May 24th it's a Tuesday. It will be at Southwest, and it's from 6 to 8 this time, and it's geared toward parents. I believe Dr. Bruner will be there and someone from the Drug Task Force, and they'll be showing different drug items, paraphernalia, things like that. There are other exciting things coming up during fair time, which I'll bring up later. And it was really nice to have both Afton and Kathy there at the meeting. It really gave us a good sense of how these kind of things impact the schools and what we have going on here. And thank you to Dr. Shoddy for actually hosting or facilitating the last event that was at the high school at the last minute there. That was a good event too. I attended the Family Collaborative meeting also, and one of the county members said that they had gone through an audit, and one thing that the state did find that they wanted them to change was how billing for the options program was being handled. They wanted another piece of a check and balance there, so the district doesn't need to change anything in how it bills, but when it goes to the county, it will now come to the collaborative to actually vote or ratify on those bills as well. So it's just a change there. And then a couple other questions that I had. I was going to ask this question at the last meeting, but I had put it off for item 9, which was that last minute recording agenda item, but apparently we weren't talking about every recording, it's just one in particular, which I wasn't aware of beforehand. But my question regarding recordings was, what happened with the March 28th video recording of the board meeting? Okay. Yeah, that's the one that didn't show up on YouTube. So, thank you. And then I had another question too about the April 4th recording. I'm wondering, it said that the system was reloading because of length of the video or something, and there was a screen up during part of the meeting recording, and I'm wondering what's the process with that? How does that happen? Because actually edited out part of the actual meeting rather than the portion of the meeting where community members were sitting in the boardroom when the board wasn't here. Yep. Okay. And then I guess I have another question about that particular meeting on YouTube. I know that we got a few contacts from the community about people were uncomfortable with their voices on that recording when there was no board business happening in the boardroom. And I'm wondering, is there a reason that that's still up on the internet? You know, can we edit that part out if people are uncomfortable with it and there was no board business going on?
Again, I think we certainly can. I don't know. I mean, you're asking me questions that could have been asked earlier, and I could have had the answers for you.
That's fine. I prefer to ask.
Find the answers.
That's fine. I prefer to ask in this format. And my last question, I think, today is that I'm wondering what is the facilities use policy for the use of Brookside after hours?
Again, I don't know, and that question, we could ask Dr. Funk or Steve Anderson to get a hold of you.
And again, Chair Shoddy, these are board reports. This isn't stump the administration and school board with questions at this point of the meeting, okay? There are times through, how many times throughout the school year we talk about if you have questions of the administration, please contact us. And that's what I would like to be contacted. So if you have a question, please contact me.
Thank you, and I am preferring to use this time right now to ask a question. I am hearing these are community items that are coming to my attention, which is why I'm asking them in a public format. And this particular question stems from the fact that I'm hearing that there was a group of students that had gained access to Brookside the night of the prom and had spent time in the building overnight and in different areas of the building. So I'm wondering, I would like to know more about that because I don't know that that follows policy. And it does, for me, it would seem to open the district up to a huge liability there as well.
Yeah, and let me, yeah, and I agree that it's liability, but I'm going to piggyback on what Mike just said, is that if you had knowledge that some students gained entrance to Brookside after hours, which I didn't, this first I've heard about it, then I think what I would suggest is that you immediately contact whoever the administrator is in charge of that, get the answers that you want so that during your board report, then you can report what you found out and what was done about it and what the policy was, because all this does is raise a bunch of questions that nobody's prepared to answer, but they probably would have the answers if they just have a day notice.
I'm prepared to answer that question because it was.
Mike, wait, please. So that, I think that's the point, is that, and I understand questions come up that you need right away, but for something that you may have known about since prom, which I guess my preference would be that if you knew about it right away, I don't know when you found out about it, unless you found out about it right now, that you would have asked about it, and the administration could have told you what they did or what the policy was, and then you could report about it or ask them to. But I do agree that it's very difficult for us to answer questions, especially routine questions that there's answers for, like what happened to the tape. I mean, I don't know what happened to the tape, but if you had asked me a week ago, I could have told you, then you could have reported what happened to the tape. I think that's the general feeling that I have. And I don't know what the other board, I'm speaking for myself now and not as board chair, but I don't know. Linda, what are your thoughts about board reports and questioning?
I know historically, it's been a time for reporting, not so much for asking questions. So I guess for me, I think this is a time to report. I actually was at a PSEO concurrent advisory meeting in Austin at Riverland campus. And Bill and I and some other members of the school district went to the Big Nine Music Choir concert at the JM High School, which was fantastic. The choir, band, orchestra performed portions of it. And that was great. And that's all I have to report.
But again, I just want to make sure that we're all doing the same thing up here. So if we want to open it up to questions, I think the questions have to be urgent questions, not questions that somebody may have known a week ago, so that you could report the answers. And I just want to make, that's what I feel. I don't know, that's what I'm trying to find out. Bill?
I don't have any problems with the questions being asked, or being reported back. So if you have some questions, the whole intent of this, I think, was to report activities of board members, what's going on, and then if there was some concerns or there were some questions that needed to be asked, ask those questions and make it productive then. Because right now we're left hanging, so don't mind the questions. It would just be nice to be able to have discussions with regards to the answers.
Okay, good answer. Julie, same? Yeah, what? Same as the Bill? Bill, okay. Dave?
Yeah, I agree the questions are good, just, maybe the report back on what we find out, then we can fulfill everything instead of waiting for 2 weeks to hear the answer to them in a public forum.
Okay.
Just follow up. I'm fine with that too. And
Okay.
I have not known since prom. So I do, if I'm hearing an item come to me from the community, I do feel that it does have to be addressed in a public manner. So I'm fine asking the question ahead of time and bringing a report too.
Yeah,
And if I have a question at the last minute, still having that freedom to bring a question. if
Oh, yeah,
I
no,
have
I want to make clear, I want questions to be asked, but I'd like to know the answer to the questions you just had. And again, now, and publicly, we have to wait 2 weeks. I mean, we'll probably hear sooner, but if you had asked last Friday, we'd probably have those answers already, then everybody could hear them. I think that's the gist we're trying to get at. So, other questions, comments, reports? Okay, all right, thank you. Julie?
Nothing else to report, but just also a thank you to Quinn and best wishes to her as she goes out on to the next chapter.
Bill? Forts?
Had the opportunity, as Linda had mentioned, that going to the Big Nine Music Fest, and that's probably one of the highlights of my year is going to that event and watching the best of the best perform and seeing our kids, in that group. So I thoroughly enjoy that event. And then also, Quinn, really appreciate your input. It's very valuable, and I know you'll do well in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I actually have a little bit longer list than you're used to, so bear with me. I also I attended the Freeborn County Partners in Prevention Drug Awareness, as you'd heard, and then also the ACEs community event, and Lana Howe sitting there, Lana Howe. And I just want to thank her for, I know you have a group that works with you, but your spirit and your dedication are what keep those things going. And what I came away from both of those events was that both of those items, there's big needs in this community, and the school district certainly has to be a part of the solution. It was also made clear that it's such a big problem, it's not the school district's problem, it's the whole community's problem or problems. And so we need to do what we can as a school district to be part of that solution. And so there is an assessment tool that I'll bring to the board that we can look at as far as understanding what we're already doing and some other opportunities we might have along drug prevention and the adverse child events. So we're looking forward to that. A reminder that graduation for ALC is June 2nd in the high school auditorium at 6 o'clock. And so the board members, we want to be there at 5:50 so we can get lined up as we need to. And then the high school graduation is the next night, June 3rd at 7 o'clock. So we'll want to be there at 6:45. A couple things about the graduation on Friday. Peggy Bennett, who's a former teacher and our state representative, is going to address the graduates, so we're looking forward to her remarks. And then Dr. Funk will be absent from graduation, and Jim Queerum Jim has a superintendent's license, so he'll take Mike's place. Now, Mike's going to be gone because his daughter Maddie is going to be graduating from the West Point Military Academy program. That happens to be the same day and almost the same time. She was accepted that program, and that program will finish on that same day. So Mike's going to be at this family, as he should be. So, and then scholarship night is Wednesday at 6:30 at the high school auditorium. I have to go already to present medical center scholarships, and then the school board scholarships. I think Julie did it last year. Does somebody want to, do you want me to just do those because I'm going to be there? Is one of you available to help? I mean, I'm going to be there. So I can, so we can just do it then. We can do it together. Okay. You're volunteered. And then the last thing I want to mention, I know a couple of you know this already, is that I've been involved with the Barbara Sinatra Children's Center for Abused Children, which is out in California. And they've been working on a project to bring to every school district free of charge, every school district free of charge in the United States, a program about child abuse and safe touches and self-esteem. And they've been working through this. Some of our students were involved, and teachers, in some of the preview of some of their initial work and gave some feedback. And that project has finished up. The DVDs have been all created. They have a benefactor who's going to pay for all of them to be distributed to every school in the country if schools want to use them in their curriculum. And so I just wanted to show a little vignette from what this looks like and then make an announcement about it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Miss Barbara. Today, we're going to talk about abuse. All children deserve to grow up happy and healthy. However, some children will face abuse in their lives. They'll be hurt or touched on private parts of their body by people they trust. We call these unsafe touches, and they are abuse. Unsafe touches are scary and confusing because they can seem playful or gentle. We're going to learn the difference between touches that are okay and touches that are unsafe. For children who experience unsafe touches from a friend or family member, it can be very hard to talk about it.
But we have to talk about it. I'm Sarah, and this is Lenny. We're here to help Miss Barbara show you that you can talk about it.
That's right. If you think someone has hurt you or touched you in a way they shouldn't, you need to tell a grown-up. Telling a grown-up is the first rule in stopping abuse.
But there are other rules too. The protect yourself rules. We use these rules to know unsafe situations when we see them, and to know how to get away if we need to.
You can stop that, Ashley.
We're going to share stories in which these rules.
So then all of those rules have their own little vignettes, and there's a K through 3 curriculum and then a 4 through 6 curriculum. And so the one part of this that's missing is, it's not the commercial, it's the promotional materials that go with it. And the producers would like to use Albert Lee, Minnesota, to make that promotional material. So they'd like to come in, they're from Washington, D.C., they'd like to come in, show the videos to some kids, we'll have to get the parental consent, interview the kids and the teachers, and then make promotional material using our students. So I think that's exciting, a good way to bring, to help out with this project. So we're gonna hope to do that here in the next 3 weeks. And then I can keep you updated on it, so. Thank you. Yeah. That's it for my report. Okay, 8.1, renewal of the food service management contract with Chartwell's. Lori.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Funk, I want to present some information regarding our Chartwell's food service contract renewal, and thank you, Ashley. I'd like to have Doral Forrester come up. He is our food service director that we contract his services with Chartwell's. That's new this year. Our long-standing food service director, Mary Nelson, retired at the end of last year, and so to fill that role, we now have Doyle here. Doyle has a bachelor's degree in education from Missouri Western State University and 31 years of food service management experience. And I'm going to kind of hit the highlights. I may ask Doyle some questions throughout the presentation. But the first category of services that Chartwell's provides the district is training. In this past year, we had a lot of different types of training that Chartwell's provided to our food service staff. And one area was in the area of like customer service training, 4 hours there. We had a marketing manager come in. Webtrition management class, that's where a registered dietitian came in and gave 4 hours of staff training. We had culinary skills training and also monthly site visits from the district manager, Katie Bissett. Doyle, do you have any comments on the training of any kind?
No, the trainings went really well with the, and it included all of the Chartwell staff along with the district staff.
Very good. Some of the new initiatives that Doyle put in place this year are listed there. One piece that's really interesting, and we'll talk about it again in a future slide, is NutriSlice. And that's really interesting module where parents and our nurses as well can access nutritional information on each menu. So those students that may have a food allergy or if they have a dietary concern, they would be able to drill down and look at those details on each menu so that they could decide whether that menu is going to fit their needs that day. Another interesting thing, as you heard quite a bit of talk about, was the new Breakfast in the Classroom program. The 2 elementaries that were qualifying for the free breakfast has been tremendously successful. In fact, Doyle, I don't know if off the top of your head, we had participation of, over 90%?
Yeah, the average of the 2 buildings was 90%. We went from feeding 150 to 175 students each morning in those 2 buildings to 625 on the average.
And of course, the purpose there is that we want to make sure students have been fed so that they can learn. And we see that as a need there and has been going well. We've been getting real positive feedback from the principals and parents overall, I believe. Another piece that's kind of interesting is the organics program that has to do with recycling, if you will. Doyle, do you want to explain what that is a little bit?
So basically, we've switched our program. The food service now, we did away with plastic silverware. We were just buying just crazy amount of silverware, plastic each year. And we replaced all of our plastic items with petroleum-based to plant-based items. We got rid of the styrofoam. Now we're doing a biodegradable trays. Now I ran out of time, but I did get this put in every school except for the high school. The high school will be when I come back next year, when we all open up school again, and then we're really going to hit them hard, and that's going to be the big project.
All right, and on the screen you see some examples of the new elementary marketing for the food program. This slide just shows the different types of initiatives that Doyle put in place and like which school that initiative was implemented in which month. So it was a very busy year for new ideas and very successful. Another category that Doyle's working with is safety training. And so that's listed here and as part of the many types of trainings that he put in place. What you see there is a picture of I believe that's the Southwest Safety Board?
Yes.
Was that the one you were recognized for? Do you want
Tomorrow.
to explain that?
Well, each year as directors, we have assignments that we have to do, and we have to hand them in. Like
January 1st, March 1st, and then at the end of the school year. Well, the second initiative for us was the safety. And so you do a whole package and you do training, and then one of the assignments was to start a safety board. This one was at Southwest Middle, and I actually won for the safety board for the North Central Division, which includes Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska.
Okay, another category I just want to explain, like the benefits of using Chartwell's management service is the volume discounts for purchasing food. This is one example. So rebate savings that the district received by contracting with Chartwell's, the savings are listed here by fiscal year of the food cost rebates. So it definitely has a huge impact when you're ranging from $111,000 to $125,000 of rebates to the food service program. Then another area that is new, I kind of mentioned the Nutri-Slice. These are the categories. The Webtrition, I believe, is the data that's put in for the data that comes through Nutri-Slice. Is that correct?
Webtrition is set up, that's our production-based system. So all of my menus are put in there. They're monitored by a registered dietitian, and she's actually out of Chicago, but she monitors our menus at least once a semester. And if she finds anything wrong with them, it's reported back to me, and then I have to correct them. The Nutri-Slice ties in with that, because once I put a menu into the Webtrition system, it feeds over into the Nutri-Slice system. So it's live time. It takes like 2 hours. If I put a new item in, it'll show up on the public side of the Nutri-Slice within 2 hours, and it's updated. So if I, say for instance, I ordered a chicken patty, and a different chicken patty came in and we had to serve them, then I would put in a new chicken patty, and by the time lunch got there, it would be reading the true nutritional facts.
So it is important just for you to know that we do have, dietitians reviewing our menus, and it's a very important step. Well, here we have a little video, if you will. If Ashley, you want to play that? It explains how Nutri-Slice works. All right, so basically that is, that's the highlights of the Chartwell's services that are provided. And so what I have before you is actually the renewal. Just to hit some highlights, when we bid out the contract, would have been 3 years ago for the 14-15 contract. And that included a profit guarantee. And so this current year, 15-16, is like year 2. And then what I'm presenting to you today is extension for year 3. That's the last and final year that we can extend. And then the year after, we'd go through the full RFP process again. So of that $71,000 profit guarantee, then there's local decisions that we make that would cut into that. So this graph just shows the types of decisions that some years that we make. Back in the 11-12 year, you could see there was substantial additional expenses. We purchased additional software, a new software system, some technology, as well as we had some severance expense. And so all those three together, that was, you know, over $100,000 that we purchased, which not only bit into the profit level, but also some into fund balance. Software isn't purchased real often, but it was in dire need of update, and so we did that year. You can see some years there's very little, some there's more of these kind of unique one-time expenses. Now this current year in 15-16 on the far right, you'll see we did have a large severance expense, and we did have some equipment. So those choices do impact then what happens with our fund balance. So this shows, you know, how many years ago, 5 years ago, we had a $221,000 fund balance, and then the next year it dropped because we made those large purchases. And then this last year, going into the audit results for 14-15 showing the increase back up. Part of that was the profit guarantee and the fact that we didn't have as many fixed expenses as far as one-time, like equipment expenses or severance. So that does, like, this just visually shows you how it can change based on our local decision on equipment needs or severance or software. So what severance means is that we had food service contract and a manager contract that upon retirement, if their contract states, they'll get an amount of severance put into their VEBA. So that's what that's about. A lot of that severance language is, exposure is being phased out now as more have retired. And then what also happens is our current employees that are district employees, you know, they stay district employees, and then when a retirement happens, like as a food service worker may retire or resign, then that new opening, that hire, becomes a Chartwell's hire. So over time, like what's kind of interesting is that the labor piece, when we bid it out 3 years ago, our labor is about the same as it was 3 years ago, just because of some of the shift, and newer employees might be cheaper than employees that have been here 20 years, that kind of thing. So actually the labor part right now is, you know, showing more efficient in that regard. Inflation hasn't really impacted that line item.
Is there a specific fund balance that we're mandated to keep in this particular fund that now has went down with some of these other things?
There is not a mandated minimum. There is a maximum cap, though, which off the top of my head is about 3 months of operating expense. And so we are not near the cap. Just to give you an example, an illustration, 1 month of operating expenses is, I have it here somewhere, is approximately $140,000, I believe. And so what I project is at the end of the 16-17 year, based on the projection, we just updated the budget that I'll be bringing to you next month. And with that profit level and the fact that we're not purchasing equipment or software and very little severance, that fund balance will be back up, exceeding 140,000.
So Chartwell doesn't really have anything to do with that fund balance. Are we purchasing equipment and the software through them, so we're getting a volume discount?
The software and equipment, that's our purchase as a district. It's not, the district could choose to purchase equipment through Chartwells, but we did not. We wanted to make that local decision and purchase it outright. And so what Chartwells provides us is they're guaranteeing us a profit level that we then can choose to purchase equipment when we need it. And it also, that rebate on the food volume, that's the great benefit, is that we're getting a better price on the food that we purchase.
And that's a direct check into the district, the rebate, is that correct?
The rebate comes through as a credit on the bill. Yes, so it comes from Chartwells. Any other questions? Probably more detail you've ever heard on Chartwell's contract ever before.
We just approved the meal prices to go up by 10% for lunch. Is that just kind of a maintenance raise?
And actually, there is like a federal calculator on that. And so we are required to increase our lunch prices. So it's, the calculator determines what you have to do, and so that's the end result, was that price. I don't know, Doyle, if you have any other explanation towards that. That's just my quick summary.
No, it's, we do a calculator. It's from last October's numbers, the amount of meals that we served, and then you put it in, and then the calculator spits it out, and then it's not even a recommendation. It's, this is what your prices need to be, your paid meal prices. And they went up. We didn't raise breakfast this year because they're up, but lunch, it went up 10 cents a meal. And we're pretty, with the conference, we're right in the ballpark of all the other schools. Now, some of them, you know, they may or may not have used the calculator. Sometimes you can get away with it in between 3-year audits, but we do it every year. We just don't want to take the risk.
And just as a side note, mention of audits, MDE routinely, it's just a routine cycle of audits that occurs every 3 years. So it's just a routine. It's not that there was an issue. It's just every 3 years you get your audit.
Other questions? And maybe I missed it. What was the reason that we went from 170 breakfasts to 600?
We're at Halverson and Hawthorne, we're doing a universal free breakfast in the classroom program.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't matter what your status is, it's free for all students.
Right.
The meals are delivered to the classroom. The teachers help with feeding the students, and then it's all done in tubs. So we pack the tubs, we deliver them to the classroom, we pick them up from the classroom. The food service staff does.
Okay. Other questions? So this is an action item, so we need a motion for the renewal of the food service management contract with Chartwells as presented. Julie first, is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries, thank you. Thanks, Lori. And thank you for coming, appreciate that. 8.2, introduction of potential collaboration opportunity with the City of Albert Lea. Chris and Bob.
Thank you, school board members, and are we on?
Oh, there we go. Thank you, school board members and Dr. Funk for inviting us here tonight. Bob Ferlin from the city, Chris Chalmers from Community Ed, to talk a little bit about some of the discussions we've been having recently about community education and recreation and what we can do to improve lifelong learning and recreation opportunities for our citizens of Elbert Lee and District 241. We are presenting to you tonight. On Thursday, we'll be going to a city council workshop and presenting to the city council. And we're just looking for feedback, questions, input, direction to see how we should continue presenting on. So, but what really brings us here tonight? Pickleball. If you want to play pickleball, you can just go down the courts. But if you want to sign up for a pickleball class, where do you go? Do you sign up for Community Ed or Park and Rec? Yes is the answer. I mean, so this year, if you're an adult, you sign up with Community Ed. If you're a youth, you sign up with Park and Rec. Much of our programming we do in Community Ed relies on citizens. They come and they say, we want to share something, and we help them facilitate an activity. So a person came to avid pickleball player came to Community Ed and said, I want to offer some pickleball for adults. We helped them facilitate a class, put it in our book. Another avid pickleball player went to Park and Rec and said they want to do something for youth. And then I think the pickleball instructor that came to our place went to Park and Rec, and then that's where confusion gets in. We could have said pickleball, we could have said water aerobics, we could have said swimming lessons, any kind of program. There is some confusion. We do our best to try to avoid it, but we know we can do better.
Today we had a person come in to sign up for one of the Community Ed classes for a soccer clinic. So it's just it's not a constant thing, but it happens quite often.
And he's a soccer coach. He should have been able to sign them up. So, and these talks and discussions are nothing new. The city and school have been working together for as long as I've been in Elbert Lee, and I just picked this as a visible example, though. 5 years ago, down by the Brookside Gardens, there's an empty green space. The city and school came together, and we built that boathouse all through donations and volunteers. But working with the city, walked that property many times with Jay Hutchison and Joe Grossman, and making it happen. So in 2011, we had 384 participants. And last year, we had 2,359 participants use the boathouse to go canoeing, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding. This year, we've added more options of activities and so forth, and we're really hopeful if the weather's good and the lake stays calm, that we can maybe get 3,000 this year. And that's because the city and school came together.
And I just think we can grow all our programs in the same nature if we're working together instead of two separate organizations all the time.
And in our discussions, these are just some of the goals that help guide Bob and I in our discussions. And we think both programs, we have good programs now. What can we do to make them better? And we just, number one, we're just putting our citizens first. What can we do to make it more convenient, easier, ease of registration, all those things. How can we be efficient and effective with what we're trying to do for lifelong learning and recreation?
It'd be nice just to have a one-stop shop, just where everybody comes up and looks for everything from youth sports all the way through Community Ed programs.
Part of our discussions, we reached out. We found communities that are like Elbert Lee, not exactly like, but outstate Minnesota, 10 to 20,000, and we have some examples. We got some information from Red Wing, Northfield, Marshall, Hutchinson, Wilmer. They're doing different programs. None of them are exactly the same, and none of those templates would be perfect for what we're doing, but they give us some ideas and backgrounds and help us to guide our conversation. We've come up with 4 options that we've come up with our discussion, and we'll be interested in your feedback. One option is no change. Community Ed and recreation, we're doing pretty good. Like I said, we have pretty good programs now. Bob and I think we can make them better, but right now we're not in dire straits that we have to do something.
I just think with the number of people both of us have, pretty small staffs, the more hands working together, the more we can get done together.
And there's a second option, co-locate, but still run programs really independently. A community that does this is St. Peter. They are in the same building, but totally separate staffs, totally separate budgets. Yet, through proximity, if somebody comes in and they want to do pickleball, they're an adult or a youth, they're going to be able to sign up because it's right across the hall. Right now, we're across town. So we think even with the only step we take is co-locating, we think we'll do through proximity would begin to reduce some duplication and have a little better communication.
It's been really fun just meeting so much in the last few weeks. We've learned a lot about each other and what we could do. We do a lot the same, and I think just with our staffs, we can make it so much better.
And another step, and these are all kind of gradual. We start from no change to complete merge, but here is we could co-locate and maybe begin to share some elements. Instead of having 2 copiers, 1 copier. Save some costs, be efficient with staff and human resources and equipment. Anything? Is this where you made the video?
Yeah,
No,
that's it.
no. And then our last option is, we get into more of a formal joint agreement between the city and school, and we become really one entity, where it's community education and recreation, or that's what a lot of the communities call it. It could be totally, or community services division in Northfield. I mean, it could be something totally different, but really the city and school really working in one thing. I think Bob and I are both in agreement that we don't care if, and I don't think the citizens care if they're taking a community ed class or if they're taking a park and rec class. They want to play pickleball. They want to take Zumba. They want to do the activity. That's the most important thing. How can we do it to be efficient and easy for them?
I think just the mother that came out to register her child today, and then you send her across town, shows a need in itself.
We go back to the goals. We're going to continue to address these. This is something that we've been working on. I've been the community ed director for 9 years, and I know we can do better. And I know it's been fun meeting with Bob, and I think just having these conversations, this is something we're working on all the time. We always want to be better. So after we get some feedback from the board, from the city council, Dr. Funk, Chad Adams, we'll continue on as directed. So this summer, each of you have a copy of our summer book that we put together, and there's copies for audience members too. Park and Rec has always been in the community ed book. It's usually been 1 or 2 pages. This is something that we started talking about this fall. Jay Hutchinson was on my advisory council, and we started talking about this, and then Bob and Jenny Davis really took it to another level. I mean, they came in, I think they have 6, 8 pages in the book, and you can see the differences where we're in the same book, but to register, you still need to go to the right location, or we're online and the city isn't online yet for the registration. So there's still some confusion, but we're trying to do our best with it. But I think if we come out and, we come out 4 times a year, I'm still interested in learning about the city. We utilize marketing and those resources better. When we reach out to youth, we're reaching out together. When we reach out to adults, we're reaching out together. So, you have any final comments?
Yes, I'm ready for questions.
Okay, yeah, if you have any questions or feedback.
Questions? Bill?
Looking at the merge model, what type of issues have you heard that crop up at the areas that have used that particular model?
There really hasn't been a lot. The ones that did merge just found strength in merging, and they still ran the same program, so the community didn't lose anything. So you didn't hear any negatives, really.
And I think when I talked to some people in Red Wing, they started with community ed and recreation, but then it grew to now the city of Red Wing plows the parking lots for the school district because it saves them money on plowing. Then they started then they're at the table more often, so they started talking and doing projects beyond, facilities and maintenance and so forth. So it grew from community ed and recreation to larger issues that save the taxpayers money.
If registration is one of the main issues, is there any reason there isn't a co-registration? Just put the city online and then you can do it at either place and still continue to operate the way you do now?
I think we could do that, but I think we lose the strength of being together where just Chris and I talking, we've talked about doing different things together. In the future, I think we could just build stronger programs and have, Chris has good people for communication and advertising, and maybe we have people with strengths in developing and running programs, and I think when we merge those together, it'd make much better programs.
You wouldn't like each other if you didn't get together?
We always would like each other.
Bob's a good guy.
Jill?
So what locations have you discussed as possible co-location sites?
We haven't really talked too much, and we're looking more philosophically to see if this is what we want. I mean, that's something if we get approval from the board, from the city council, please research this a little bit more. We'd go to our advisory councils and we'd look at things that, parking, access is important, and, and ideally, centrally located. We'd put, with our goals, put the citizens first. Where's the best place for that? Whether it's a school district facility, a city facility, we haven't pinpointed anything in particular.
When it comes to merging the staff a little bit more, how do you see, I saw that the financials would still be separate. How do you see that happening when the staff is merged and the finances will be separate?
Again, this is very high level. We didn't do an org chart or anything, and finances separate is one option. I mean, you could be that, or it could be finances together. Some of the agreements have the school district contributing to the city. Some have the city contributing a lump sum to the school district. So every community works a little bit different in how you want to do that with staffing. But this is very superficial, very high level, philosophical. We wanted to see what your thoughts are and see if we have momentum to go forward before we work on some of the more specifics.
What kind of feedback are you getting from your staffs as you process this, if you have yet?
Well, I talked to my staff, and they think it's great because, I have a person who's really great at marketing, likes to do that, and I know Bob's got some great programming assistants, and then it could free them up to focus on more of their passions and do a better job at what we're trying to do. So
I think sometimes there's a fear of unknown, but overall, I think as we talk more and more, I think it's becoming more and more acceptable, and I think for the most part, we're looking forward to it.
Linda?
Yeah, as a parent in the community who has been in that position where do I go? I think this would be awesome. And for, like you said, instead of sending one person to the wrong place, going back and forth, and just having just something that's more altogether would be really awesome. I think it's a great idea.
Julie?
Also, as a parent with children in the community, and I have been a community ed class participant myself, and I echo Linda's comments that the convenience of, okay, I gotta get this one signed up for t-ball and swimming lessons, but I want to take this class. I think it would be wonderful for our community members to have kind of the one-stop shop for registration and having the whole array of services there. I think for the fixed costs that you have for like buildings, phones, technology, equipment, those would be another great way to have some efficiencies. It probably does get a little more complicated when you start looking at staffing, but I still think that can be doable too, whether it's through a joint powers agreement or some kind of an agreement with that too. But I just think it would really, we'd gain great efficiencies and provide really nice services to community members in the most efficient way. So I'm supportive of moving forward and exploring what this could look like.
Other comments or questions? I echo her remarks exactly. Anybody have different thoughts, or, I mean, what you're asking is I guess what we're asking is to explore the options, and then you'll come back with a recommendation. Is that the plan?
I think so, yeah. We'd talk to the city council and get their thoughts and inputs, and if they're in agreement to keep moving forward, then we would go look at, different levels, from that first step, maybe just co-locating to, and then we could have some examples of different joint agreements. All those communities have given us their joint agreements. The templates are out there, so we could look at different ones and we could find different options that would work for Albert Lee, and then we could come back and present a recommendation if that was acceptable.
What's your time frame?
We're pretty flexible. We're gonna find out from the city council on Thursday, and we'll just keep moving
that's okay.
forward.
That's
I
this
think
week.
with these organizations, I think we're at 12-month programming cycles and so forth, and for community ed, the easiest time to make a transition is in the summer. Whether it's this summer or next summer might be the easiest, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't move next December either, We can move almost any time, so.
Bill, you had another question?
Just going back to the question I had earlier, I would be curious to know if there's entities that have gone this direction and have chosen to reverse it, and what those reasons were. You can learn from those things, and then also entities that may have looked at this model and said, no, we're not going to do that. I'd like to know what those reasons are as well.
Okay.
Okay, other questions or comments?
Just one other thing too, I know that a joint venture happened a number of years ago when we went together with Park and Rec Community and then the Y with our junior high athletics. And I guess I would be interested to see what the numbers have showed us from that. And, as far as if there was some good savings, I know there was some different, we'll pay for the coaches, we'll pay for the facilities, we'll pay for the transportation type of thing, and how that all kind of came together. As a parent of a junior high person about that time after just moving out of that, I didn't really get to see a lot of it. Just wondered how that all worked out. Or is working out, I should say.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else? Good questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Okay, item 8.3, 7-member board, authorization to submit a question for a voter election. It's an action item. Actually, I think I'm the presenter. Can you bring that up, please? So we talked about this almost exactly a year ago. We have 6 members, as we all know, and we talked about going to 7. And last year, for the voters to vote on that, we would have had to hold and pay for the entire election, which was astronomical. So that's why I'm bringing it back now, because we have time to get on the general election for November at essentially little to no cost to us, as opposed to last year. Again, how that works is if the voters approve the 7th spot, that's all that happens this November, and then it's not till 2 years later that that seat becomes available. So the seat itself is actually 4 years removed. And that'll be in that cycle, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And as I remember last time, the pros we had about this was that it does allow for one more person to participate. It reduces, as long as we have a quorum, or all members, it reduces the possibility of a tie. It's what all the other big 9 schools have, and it does allow the voters to decide. It's a thing that voters get to decide. The cons were, when we have 6 members, then we do sometimes have to compromise. And there's a cost to it. There's whatever the salary for a board member is at that time, and the cost to go to the state convention. And then last year, the big con was the cost of the election. So I kind of remember those as the pros and cons. Do other people remember some others? Jill?
I did have one other con that I had thought about at that time, and that was that it's a lesser percentage of the board that has to vote for something to move ahead. For example, right now it takes 4/6 of the board for an item to move ahead. Then it would only be 4/7. So to me, it kind of can cause a disservice to the community in that if we don't have, we're reducing the amount of percentage of board members that need to approve something.
Yes, I do remember said. Then I also remember somebody said too, though, that we are the only public entity that requires a supermajority for every vote. It does not happen in any other publicly elected body for every vote. There are some, so So let's do that, let's do a motion and a second, then we have some more discussion, and then we can vote up or down. I think we should do it that way. So I'm gonna make a motion to authorize to submit the question for the voter election to add a 7th board member. And that's the resolution up there. Second, so now discussion. Dave?
I guess if this was something that we move forward with, like you said, it wouldn't take an effect for a couple more years for that 7th board member. Is there a way that we can actually, instead of having over a 50% turnover of the board at any one time, maybe come in with a 1 or 2 year initial seat to get us into some kind of a rotation of maybe a 2-2-3 election, or we come in with a 3-2-2, or do we lengthen out one of the other board members, maybe that would be newly elected in a year, to make them, instead of a 4-year, into a 5-year term for a one-time thing? I don't feel as comfortable in seeing as big a turnover of 4 seats in 1 year versus 3. I mean, now it is that at 50%, but now we would go over the 50%, like Jill said, and dilute it down even more. So that would be just a consideration if there's a way to tie together, not necessarily obviously in this question, but when it does come to the elections, and maybe to see what some other boards that the odd numbers do. I have no idea, maybe they are a 4-3 election at different times. But that would be my thought or consideration to
Yeah, great,
talk.
great question. I don't know the answer. Lori or Mike, do you know the answer to that? With 7-member boards you've been on before?
They've been 4 and 3.
So every 2 years, it's 4-3, 4-3?
Yep.
And there's never a
There
so-called off year?
there sometimes can be if somebody resigns mid-year or midterm, and then you may have a special election, which would occur in that off 2-year cycle. But typically, they're set up 4-3.
Is that because if you have an off-year election, the school district would have to pay for it?
Yes.
Probably? Yeah. So there's, but I mean, that's a good point. Other discussion?
A question I have, and I don't know if this is maybe statutorily because it has to be that way, but can we go back to the ballot question itself for a moment? I just think the wording seems odd. Does it have to be, shall the School Board of Independent School District 241, Albertley Area Schools consist of 7 members? Can it be, can one additional member be added? I mean, do most people know it's a 6-member board, and will they understand the question? I guess is what I'm wondering. I think it reads a bit confusing.
I can check. This is what they provided us as far as the ballot language, but we can certainly look into that.
And maybe no one else wonders that, but I just thought it read kind of strange and assumes community members
Yep.
and voters know that
that's a
there
good
are
question.
6 members
So
currently.
you'd like it to say, which I think I agree with, that shall the School Board of Independent School District 241 increase from 6 to 7 members?
Right.
Yep. We can
If
look
the
at
law
that.
allows yeah.
What we would need from you tonight is we can change this and have you approve the ballot language later. If you want to approve the resolution tonight, we can definitely take a look at tweaking the language for the actual ballot. I popped the ballot up as an example, but the resolution is really what you would need to do tonight. Or you can wait, and it has to be approved by late August for the resolution. For it's got to be in August at some point, but that's why we're introducing it to you now.
Yeah, so we could, yeah, I mean, there is a deadline, which I think was, I can't remember the exact date, but in my memory, it comes in August pretty quickly for us to submit it to the state for it to get on the general ballot, which is what we ran up into last year. So we could, other comments or questions?
I just had one more comment. Because we haven't talked about this for a long time, I know we discussed it about a year ago, and talked about it then. Just as I'm processing and thinking now, I'm wondering, do we have to make it be an action item tonight, or could we think about it more and put it on the next agenda for a vote? I mean, I just want to make sure we've all had enough time to think through I just personally haven't thought about it much since we first discussed it a year ago.
Yeah. No, we certainly can do that, and we can get some of these questions answered too. Linda?
I believe it's August, yeah. You sent me an email on it a couple weeks ago.
As far as educating the community about how much a seventh board member would cost, how would we do that?
Yeah, I guess we could put it on the website and put something in the paper. It would be the salary of that person and then what the average cost, which, you know, a couple $100 to go to the meeting, so. Yeah, so we could, I don't know, the newspaper and the website come to my mind unless there's some other, we could announce it at the meeting too. So let's, any contrary thoughts, what you've heard, or different questions, or Linda? No? Okay. So how about this, we already made a motion and seconded, so the rules of order require that we table it. I want to withdraw it, so, and we can table it indefinitely, which means we don't have to necessarily do it at the next meeting, because the next meeting might not be an action meeting, and we can find out some of these numbers and dates, and then we can take another run at it. Is that, seeing some nods? Okay, so Dave, will you make the motion to table indefinitely?
I'll make a motion to table the current motion on the floor indefinitely.
Okay, and I'll second it. Any discussion regarding that?
Can we table indefinitely? I always thought tables had to have an end date.
I believe you can. I guess I can get out my Robert's rules. It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. You can postpone definitely. I don't know.
Mr. Chair?
There is an option to withdraw or modify a motion, which, yeah, when it would just require a majority vote to withdraw. That might be the cleanest thing to do, and then we won't get into any issues there. So I'll make a motion to withdraw the motion that I have on the table.
I'll second that.
Now, any discussion about that? All in favor, aye? Aye. Pose same sign. Okay. So we'll get the information out as soon as we can find the answers to those good questions. All right, thanks for that discussion. 9.1, credit for learning, first reading for policy 620. Kathy. Thanks, Linda.
So last August, we had a parent approach us about taking a AP Computer Science class. We do not offer AP Computer Science here at Albert Lea High School, so we spent a lot of time searching for where we could find that opportunity for this student. He was a student who had all his credits. He really wanted to pursue this. Our supplemental online provider did not offer the course. I contacted Rochester Public Schools, who does offer the course, but they did not offer it interactive TV. So the parents were very patient and found a course, an online AP course. Unfortunately, it was not one that is accredited by Minnesota Department of Education, so we could not pay for that course. The parent chose to pay for that course. We've offered the AP exam for that student. So Mr. Grossgloss and I talked about how do we go about offering opportunities for students, in this case, enrichment opportunities, when they're somewhat outside the bounds of where the Department of Education sits in Minnesota. So I called around other school districts, in particular those who also deal with Riverland and post-secondary enrollment options, so Owatonna and Austin. And this is a policy that they have. Owatonna has the full policy, and Austin has an abbreviated version of this. So what I'm proposing is that we take a look at this policy to, first of all, it does define some post-secondary pieces for us that we don't currently have defined in policy. And one is how we offer credits, which is our current practice. We just don't have it in policy. But most importantly, on 623, under number 2, it talks about students transferring from a non-accredited, non-public school shall receive credit from the school district upon presentation of a transcript. So that is one of the pieces that I think Mark and I and Tanya from ALC would like us to have the opportunity to explore with students. So for instance, the student taking the AP exam, we could have received the course syllabus from that organization, follow our policy, and grant that student that course on his transcript. Now, we'll be able to put the AP test score on there for him. The parents were very gracious, and they said they really weren't concerned about that credit, but certainly it would be nice to put that on that young man's transcript and for those who come after him. So that is the most important piece of this policy that we're bringing forward, but there also is information on post-secondary enrollment, which we currently don't have in policy, and also credit from online learning courses, which is in conjunction, is really in line with what we currently do. We just don't have it in policy. I did have another parent approach me and said, what if my student took maybe a summer language academy? We don't have an option for taking that learning credit and allowing students credit for that here at school. Having said that, this doesn't allow for something that happened earlier in the year, and that's the homeschool PE credit, because that is outside this policy. So trying to be very prescriptive in what we do and make sure we maintain the integrity of the students' learning, and asking for appropriate documentation. And then this policy would give them a P, a passing grade, as opposed to a letter grade. It is separate from our homeschool policy, which when parents bring in homeschool work, we accept it. And that policy is separate. So this really is just for enrichment, and we know that there are students who bring other opportunities to our doorstep, and we would like to be able to allow them credit for that in a very systematic fashion. So I'd like you to take the next few weeks to take a look at that policy if you have any questions or concerns. We did take out some of the things that are actually in the School Board Association policy because they refer to things that no longer are in law, the profile of learning, grad testing, et cetera. So our policy looks a little bit different than Owatonna's, but probably just updated. So, questions?
Who would be the local supervisor person?
The high school principal, correct. And then the superintendent. If a parent would like to appeal, they can appeal to the superintendent.
And does it, and I haven't read the whole thing, but does it have a way to proactively, like, here's what my child's gonna do, and this is what it's gonna cost me, and so we wanna know ahead of time before we spend time and money, or is it all retroactive?
We can do that ahead of time, which is what we do now with parents who come in, and we can find a supplemental online course for that student. We do work with them ahead of time so they know what to expect ahead of time,
Okay.
and what credit we would grant them. We work through the co-op out of Mankato, who works with Intermediate School District 287 out of the Metro, North Star Online, for that supplemental online learning, but they didn't offer this course for this student.
Okay.
And I did try to get that organization to become accredited. I sent them all of Department of Ed's things, but I'm not sure where they're at right now, so.
Okay, we'll have 3 readings.
Okay.
And the second one, is it gonna be in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks? Either or, okay. So if you have questions or comments,
for June?
let Kathy know so she can start to make those, so that the second reading, we have a different version of it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, item 10, closed session, Minnesota Statute 13D.05, subdivision 3. Board in a closed session to evaluate the performance of an individual who is subject to its authority. That's an action item, so I need a motion. Second. Linda, discussion?
I have some questions about that.
Yeah.
This is the same statute that was used for the closed session of January 19th for the supposed board self-evaluation. And I feel like it was not used appropriately there, so I have become pretty familiar with it, and I have some questions about that. The statute mandates that the individual be identified. In what form is that individual identified?
Mike?
They are identified when they are notified that they are going to closed session to discuss the closed session, and they're notified upon request publicly. There's been no public request for notification of that individual.
Okay, so you're saying that the individual was notified that this closed session was going to happen?
Correct.
And why is it being called an evaluation? There's only one person that's directly evaluated by us. Is there a reason that this is being called a performance evaluation?
Every employee of the school district, to include board members, falls under the auspices of this statute.
And those board members, too, would have to be identified ahead of time and given that opportunity and treated equally, of course, if it was as a board. So I'm just wondering why it's being called a performance evaluation in this particular instance.
Based upon the advice of our legal counsel.
And do we have that advice in writing?
I don't know. I'd have to check, but I know there was a conversation with legal counsel last week on this.
Okay. I won't be supporting going into closed session for this.
Okay. Other comments or questions? None? Okay. Motion on the table is to go into closed session, subject to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, subdivision 3. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. So we are in closed session. So as far as we know, it's back up and on? Okay. Is everybody's microphone? I mean, but you turn on, just make sure everybody's is working? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anybody else out there that we're waiting for? Yes, one? Oh, nobody, I'm sorry. All right, so we're out of closed session, so now we're in open session, item 10.1, for a personnel action. And this personnel action involves district employee Rick Barnhill. And we've had our discussion, so there'll be a motion that needs to be made. So I'd be looking for a motion to non-renew the coaching contract of Rick Barnhill. So Bill is the first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Linda, second. Discussion. Is there any discussion regarding that motion? No discussion, okay. If not, then we'll do a roll call vote. So, Linda?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Julie? No. Jill?
No.
Dave?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So motion carries. And then we're adjourned. Thank you.